think the Social Security COLA for this coming year is actually going to be? Now, this is a really good question because recently we've been seeing inflation going through the roof. We've been seeing prices escalating higher and higher, and a lot of people are falling behind financially, which again, I sound like a broken record. I feel like a broken record because we've been saying this all throughout the entire year of 2026. And realistically, now that we are here in the middle of 2026, it feels like things are accelerating even faster. And realistically, that's the truth. That is the reality of the matter. Prices are rising very rapidly. Inflation is out of control again. We are now seeing the highest inflation that we've seen since going back to early 2023. April of 2023, to be exact, was the last time that we've seen inflation at the levels that we are currently at as of right now. Well, again, a lot of people out there across the channel, I see it down below in the comments section, all across the board, reaching out saying, what do you really think it's going to be? Now, I want to be fair with you. I've had a number of videos out recently where I've been talking about it. I've been sharing with you the inflation reports, the CPI, the Consumer Price Index, the PPI, the Producer Price Index, the PCE, Personal Consumption Expenditures, all of these economic data points, and we can clearly see the trend is definitely still higher. We know that over the coming months here, the inflation will likely continue to move significantly higher. With that being said, I want to take into consideration the inflation data that we just got last week. Last week, we got the most recent CPI and PPI inflation data. So based on that information, I kind of want to give you an estimate here in this video. And again, before I say it, I want to preface this by saying, obviously, all of this is subject to change. At any given point, inflation could stall out. They could manipulate the numbers. They could hold the reports. Remember, they did that last year as well. Last year, the end of the year, they held back a few of the inflation reports and said, government shut down, BLS, we told everybody to go home. We're not going to have any reports. They could literally do that again. Be a bad situation. Either way, we know that prices are moving up. All right, so anyway, here's what I want to do. Based on the inflation data, according to my math, my calculations, the estimates that are out there as of right now, and like I said a minute ago, all could change. All is subject to change. No promises. This is definitely not the official announcement at all, but rather I want to give you the estimates as far as where we're currently at. Now, here's what's interesting. Based on that inflation data that we got last week, okay, so just like not even a week ago now, as I film this or host this live stream right now, we got those inflation data points. We saw across the board all over there many different Social Security analysts and other experts and other individuals coming out giving their forecasts. The range that is out there right now, based on this most recent inflation data point, just taking into consideration the inflation data points that we've received so far, not projecting into the future, not extrapolating that data and looking out, 3-4 months out into the future as far as what inflation may be, but just taking the data that we have and then just deriving a number from that. The estimates are coming out between 4.6 and 4.7. However, that's not my number. That's not my number. I'm going to be fair with you. I'm quite a bit higher than that. But what I've done instead is I've looked at all of the inflation data that we've received so far. And what I've done is I've extrapolated that out, considering the inflation data that we're going to get essentially over the next 4 months. So we still need June's inflation data. Now, I'm going to be fair. I'm filming this live stream right now in the middle of June 2026, middle of June right here, right now. So we're still waiting June's inflation data, July's, August, and September. We're still waiting 4 more inflationary reports. We've only received a handful for 2026. And remember, going back to the beginning of the year, we started out estimates at 1.6 to 1.7%. That was the range, literally like 4 months ago. And now we're sitting at 4.6 to 4.7, literally 3 percentage points higher just in the last, call it 4 to 5 months. So it's going up quite a bit. Anyway, so I've taken all this inflation data, I've extrapolated it out over the next, call it 4 months, or next 4 inflationary reports is what really truly matters. And what I've done is I've come up with a bigger, a higher figure. So here's where I'm at. To give you a broad range, I'm going to say somewhere between 5 and 6%. Now, I totally recognize that's still a pretty wide range. If you want me to narrow that down even more, I would say this. I would be looking at a 2027 Social Security COLA between 5.5 and 6% based on the data that we have right now, taking into consideration the speed, the velocity, the trend, and the trajectory of inflation, what we're seeing on the consumer level, CPI, what we're seeing coming through on the wholesale level, PPI, producer price index, and other inflationary data points. We still see major inflation moving through on the wholesale level. That's why I continue to say next stop is the consumer level. So my point being is that we see inflation on the wholesale level first. That's where we see it. And then we, the end consumer, will ultimately get those price increases. So when we got the wholesale inflation data last week, and we see that on a year-over-year basis, it's coming at 6.5%, we know that that's still coming. That's not like worked its way through yet. That inflation is still coming to the consumer prices that all of us will ultimately pay at our stores over the coming months here. And remember, all of this inflation data that we've received so far this year, and even the report that we get in about a month from right now in the middle of July, technically doesn't even matter. It's once we roll over to July. So literally in like 2 weeks from right now, as I host this live stream, when we roll over to July, that's when all of it matters. Every single price adjustment between July through the end of September, there's 92 days in that range. Every little price adjustment during that 92 days, all of July, all of August, all of September, will be reflected in the COLA. That's my point. Okay. So basically looking at the inflation data points that we've received so far and just looking at the trend and the speed in which it is moving, and then also taking into consideration the wholesale level data and inflation that we're seeing coming through, we can extrapolate that out. And that's where I'm coming up with these numbers. So, and again, I said earlier, and I want to say it again really quickly, there are many factors out there that could influence these numbers to make them look lower. Doesn't mean that they actually are lower in reality, but rather give the appearance, the illusion, the mystery, the hallucination of being lower, which would be what? Many different things. Number one, they could literally just stop reporting the inflation data. They could literally just stop, just like they did at the end of last year. They could just say, no more reports. Sorry, no more reports. We're not releasing these anymore. They could do that. They did it for the first time in history at the end of last year. Next, they can manipulate the data. I've made this very clear before in other videos. They could easily come and manipulate this data. In fact, I'm going to be fair. I wouldn't be shocked if they're already doing it. In fact, I believe that they're already doing it because this is just typically what they do, especially with an election year and the midterm elections coming up. They don't want to show everybody that we're getting hammered every time we go out to the store. They want to make it look like, yeah, inflation, it's not all that bad. So they could easily manipulate these numbers even more to give the illusion there's no inflation here. Don't know what you're talking about, everybody. Yeah, right. We already know better than that, okay? So they could do this, and they could just straight up lie to us and just be like, you know, the inflation's coming in at 2.7%. Look at that. We knocked all this inflation down. We did some major improvements. And again, we would all know better than that because that's not really how it works. Now, one more thing I want to throw out. I've had a few questions coming in about this, and I just want to throw it out there super fast. There's this miscommunication or misconception that is out there suggesting when inflation is low, that means prices are coming down. Nada. That's not how it works. When inflation is going up, what that means is that prices are rising faster. Okay, so prices are rising, quite a bit faster. When inflation goes down, it does not mean that prices go down, but rather the rate of price increases is slowing. Okay, think of it like a vehicle driving down the road. Okay, the vehicle's driving at say 60 miles per hour. That's inflation moving at 4.5%, 5%. Okay, let's just say that vehicle slows down to 40 miles per hour now. Does that mean that prices are coming down? No, it just simply means that the speed of that vehicle has slowed. The speed of inflation, the speed of price increases has slowed. That's it. Okay, that's all that means. So when you see these inflationary numbers come down, at some point we will see them down, whether it's true or whether they just manipulate them lower. Whenever you see them come down, don't fall for what they're telling us, which is they're going to be out there pounding their chest saying, look, we're bringing prices down. And we have to say, no, we know better than that. Prices are not coming down, but rather the speed of price increases is slowing down. That's all that means. Okay. But here's the deal. Well, I don't really know how to say this in a nice way. They treat us like we have no idea what's going on, and we can see right through the smoke and mirrors. I'm totally 100% sick of it. I'm so sick of all the lies. It is just like ridiculous. But my point being is that they act like we don't know anything. We know exactly what's going on. So anyway, when you hear all of them acting like, oh, we brought all this inflation down, look it, we're heroes. No, false. They didn't bring inflation down. Prices are still very much elevated, and they're not coming back down. Okay. Unfortunately, when it comes down to consumer prices and when it comes down to prices that we see at our stores, things like that, once they go up, they generally don't come back down unless we have demand destruction. What that means is that people are not buying anymore. When people cut back on their spending, when people cut back on buying, that is what we would consider as demand destruction, as in we're not buying those things. And then it's a simple function of supply and demand. When there's less demand and equal to or greater supply means price must come down. That's it. Okay. So anyway, that's the only thing that'll really bring price down. That's it. It's not going to be all these other factors that they continue to lie to us about. So there you go. For those of you who've been wondering, I hope this gives you that better perspective on where we're currently at. And again, all this subject to change. These next few inflation reports are going to be massively important. We will get the CPI, the PPI in the middle of July. Those are going to be very, very important. Those will be on the behalf of June, by the way. Last week, the inflation numbers that we got were on the behalf of May. May's inflation data last week in the middle of June. Well, here we are in the middle of June right now. So anyway, I'll keep you posted. As always, keep those comments, questions, feedback rolling in. Let me know what else I can do for you. Otherwise, I hope this helps you out. And again, I'm going to throw this out there super fast. I'm going to wrap this up. But many of you know this. I'm blind. So the way that I have to turn this off is I'm going to unplug the microphone. When I do, my phone is going to start talking. If you're here, I appreciate you watching. You may want to click off. Otherwise, you can hang out. My phone's just going to start talking. It's kind of probably annoying. So just want to give you that quick little heads up. All right, anyway, please consider subscribing. Check out the other videos here on the channel. Stay tuned. I'll be back in a little while here with another video. Big things are going on right now. It's a very weird time we're living through. All right, anyway, please have a nice day. Thanks so much for joining me on this live stream, and I'll catch you again a little bit later in the next video. All right, get ready. Here comes my phone. I'm going to start talking. All right, so there goes the mic now. Oh my gosh. Hello. Okay, now it's not talking to me. Had this problem the other day. I don't know why it does this. Hang on. Okay, try this again. Plug this back in. Let's see if it talks now. Nope. Dang, I wonder why it does that. Okay, now this is even more awkward because now I need to text my wife and have her come and help me. Hey, Corey, if you're watching, please come help. All right, hang on. I wish I would have had this already. That's why I don't do a ton of live streams anymore because the technology doesn't cooperate. Hey, can you help? Oops, hang on. The phone is black. How about now?
Here we go.
Can you see it? All right. Thanks, everybody, for your patience. Sorry about all this.